Chapter 10. Kishir Laor had taught Yudhir many things: how to stand in the position of the cavalry commander, how to endure in a court filled with hyenas, and even how to live as an Omega and an empowered person after awakening. There had been times when he resented him for unilaterally passing on too much burden to him, but his thoughts changed slightly when it was about time for him to die. Kishir Laor had definitely chosen Yudhir as the commander among 300 members with some kind of will in mind. However, it was unclear what he hoped for in making that choice. Did he really not know that Yudhir would become the lion to take his life when he handed over the position of the cavalry commander? Could he, who was well aware of the imperial and noble family's circumstances, have not known that such an order would come down? With Kishir's abilities, he could have certainly escaped death by running away beforehand, or on the contrary, killing Yudhir. But he didn't. Yudhir discovered that fact too late to ask him why he had acted that way. The dead couldn't speak. However, now he might be able to understand his intentions without receiving the burdens he offered. To do that, he first had to avoid killing him as before. I'm wondering when the top cavalry candidate finally arrived. It's about time you showed up. Did you finally make your decision? Kishir spoke to him casually with a smile. His tone was far too relaxed for an imperial noble to address a commoner, but Yudhir was not surprised. He already knew his personality. Yes, but if you are about to leave, I'll come back another time. No, it's fine. I don't have any plans. I was just about to go out for a while and come back. Kishir stepped back a few paces with a smile. Come in. Yudhir had an unusual experience of stepping into the place as a guest, where he had once used it for a much longer time. The space, hastily constructed, but considering it was for an imperial family member, showed the efforts of the artisans to match its dignity. The high domed ceiling was above the floor covered with the highest grade carpet from the southern mountains without any gaps. The central furnace, fueled by magic stones from the north, looked more like a beautiful sculpture than a furnace. The majestic bookshelf that filled an entire wall and the black marble desk beneath it exuded an awe-inspiring presence that one would hardly dare to touch. What about the beauty of the dozen or so paintings depicted ancient myths handed down in the Our Empire? The white annular stone walls adorned with the paintings shone brilliantly in 5 colors even without light. Visitors who witnessed the spectacle were naturally drawn into a sense of awe, as if they were standing before a temple altar. Of course, Yudhir was all too familiar with the scenery, merely glanced around once without feeling any surprise. Indeed, his gaze was drawn to the upper part of the stone furnace that emitted red and blue flames. The transparent gemstone, carved to appear as if it was floating in the air, served as a sword stand, and on the rested a single massive sword, the divine sword Or. At first glance, It was clear that this was not a sword meant for ordinary people to use. Despite being stored within a scabbard that contained all manner of sacred power, magic, and the technique of different races, the energy it emitted was extraordinary. The sword, which merely observing seemed to sharpen one's senses with its keen aura, was none other than the divine sword or said to have been bestowed upon the first emperor who found the Or Empire by the messenger of the god. Those without imperial blood could hold the sword. However, being able to hold it did not mean they could wield it. The divine sword was famous for being extremely particular about its user's abilities and qualities. Throughout the 1,000-year history of the empire, there had been fewer than 10 people who were able to wield the sword, and Kishir Laor was the only person of his time chosen by the divine sword Or. After his death, no one else appeared who could wield the sword until the day Yudhir died. The proud divine sword, which even Yudhir, who boasted unparalleled abilities, couldn't touch. Since no one but the chosen one could move the sword, it remained forever in the Paletta Duchy's estate, where Kishir Laor had last resided. Due to its demanding nature, even the nobility rarely knew what the divine sword looked like. It was only natural, as Kishir had not frequently carried or used the sword even after being revealed as the chosen one. Why did the divine sword choose Kishir if it wouldn't be properly used by its chosen master? If the sword knew that it would part so quickly with its owner, would it have made the same choice? Occasionally, he wondered about this, but it was as unknowable as Kishir's intentions. Is the sword fascinating? Kishir spoke to Yudhir, who was staring solely at the divine sword. Normally, people are first captivated by the other parts of this room and don't pay much attention to it. Indeed, it wasn't the reaction expected of a ordinary commoner, Yudhir murmured inwardly. Although the sword was a legendary divine sword, it appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary ceremonial sword for high-ranking individuals. It didn't look like a sword that could be used in actual combat, and with the surroundings so grand and extravagant, it was reasonable that people didn't focus on the sword first. But for me, that sword always bothered me the most. Yudhir recalled a memory from long ago. Now knowing the appearance and abilities of the divine sword and the events tied to it in the future, it was natural for his gaze to drawn to it. However, before he traveled back in time, when he was just a young member of the cavalry, Yudhir had first looked at the sword. It was possible because his senses, which could feel mana, was so keen that they could penetrate the protective barrier of the scabbard that hid the sword's aura. Back then, Kishir had shown great interest in Yudhir for the first time. Only then did Yudhir finally turn his gaze away from the divine sword Or and look towards Kishir. With a soft, enigmatic smile playing at the corner of his lips, Kishir watched Yudhir intently. So far, the gaze on Yudhir, who was slightly above average, was one of more curiosity. I just looked at the sword because it gave off an unusual vibe. Unusual? In what way? At this point, Kishir hadn't yet publicly announced that he was the owner of the divine sword. That revelation would come later, when he was assigned a top secret mission to collect the red stone. So for now, it was crucial to feign ignorance while piquing Kishir's interest. Just looking at it, I feel an energy as if it's targeting me. The sword's teeth seem to be blocking it, but it can't completely hide it. It wasn't a lie. In fact, at that moment, he was feeling the sharp energy flowing from the sword throughout his body. Somehow, the energy feels even stronger than what I felt before. Am I imagining things? In the past, he had felt unusual energy from the sword, but it was never enough to make his entire body feel sore. Yudhir used to possess extraordinary abilities, powerful enough to make people believe that he had no equal in the world. Could the reversal of the time have heightened his senses beyond their original level? It was an unknown matter. Upon hearing Yudhir's words, Kishir's gaze shifted to the sword. A moment later, the energy that had been directed at Yudhir disappeared as if it were a lie. Can you feel the energy diminishing? Seeing Yudhir's shoulders stiffen, Kishir spoke with an amused expression. It seems you're not lying. I have never seen a sword with such power before. Really? Haven't you heard of something similar? For a moment, Yudhir worried that Kishir had noticed something. Even though he knew it was unlikely, it was briefly tense. Everyone knows the story of the founding emperor and his divine sword Or. His worry had been unnecessary. Yudhir exhaled softly and nodded. So, are you saying that sword is the divine sword? Yes, to be exact, I'm the 12th owner. It's a fussy thing, not allowing anyone but the chosen one to wield it. Yudhir already knew the story. Nevertheless, he feigned surprise as if hearing it for the first time. Kishir did not doubt his reaction and continued talking. I have seen many awakened through the power of the red stone, but you're the first to sense energy so keenly. Was it like this since your awakening? Or did you feel more sensitive to mana or other energies than other during your daily life? It's been like this since my awakening. I see. Kishir nodded, rubbing the area below his lips. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I was one of the examiners when you first took the cavalry test as the number 423. Did you know that? You were the one on the far right. Yes, you have a rare talent for distinguishing things so precisely. You truly are sensitive to energy. The main reason Yudhir recognized Kishir was not his sensitivity to energy, but because he had seen Kishir in that form before. However, Yudhir decided not to reveal the truth. Back then, I thought your talent was exceptionally suited to be both Shin and Sil divisions. But if I had to choose, I thought you would be more suited to the Sil. Was I wrong?